Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Listen, I am absolutely thrilled to walk you through this today because we are diving headfirst into the bizarre, slightly terrifying, and totally fascinating reality of animals you thought you knew. Seriously, what you're about to see it is going to completely rewrite your understanding of biology. Let's get into it. Okay, let's kick things off with a question that, honestly, might just ruin your childhood a little bit. We all know nature can be messy, right? But there is a globally beloved, ridiculously fluffy creature out there that literally consumes its own waste every single day. It is a required part of its diet. We'll reveal exactly who the culprit is a bit later in this explainer. And while you're mentally scrolling through cute animals trying to figure that out, I want you to consider this staggering number: 4,000. Now, this isn't the number of miles some bird migrates. No, it's the number of individual muscles packed into one tiny, seemingly simple insect. Nature is just vastly more complex and, frankly, way weirder than we usually give it credit for.
Which brings us to Section 1, the dark side of box.
Let's start with those little guys you probably just ignore on the sidewalk, like snails and slugs. And fun fact, slugs are literally just snails that lost their shells through evolution. Anyway, many common snails possess over 14,000 teeth. 14,000! And the craziest part is where they keep them. These thousands of microscopic teeth are located straight on their tongues. They don't chew their food, they basically rasp and scrape their way through life. Just to illustrate how intense this gets, there's a specific type of sea snail called a limpet. It might only have around 1,900 teeth, but those teeth are made from the absolute hardest biological material we've ever discovered. You always hear about spider silk being stronger than steel, right? Well, limpet teeth are actually stronger than titanium, literally. If your house cat had teeth like this, it would easily be the most dangerous animal on the planet. No contest. Okay, moving on to another bug. We all learned in kindergarten that caterpillars turn into butterflies. Pretty simple, right? Well, inside that chrysalis, and actually scratch that, it's a chrysalis, not a cocoon, the caterpillar doesn't just sprout some wings. It largely digests itself into a liquid soup. It literally melts. But micro-CT scans show it's not totally liquid. Their internal breathing tubes actually stay intact, acting like a little scaffolding while they rebuild a completely new body. And here is the truly mind-blowing part. Even after this extreme, gooey metamorphosis, the butterfly actually keeps its memories from when it was a caterpillar. How crazy is that? Oh, and remember that number 4,000 from our hook? Well, here's the answer. A caterpillar has 4,000 muscles in its squishy little body. Now compare that to us humans. We only have about 629. So yeah, the muscular complexity of this tiny insect completely puts us to shame. But you know, once they become those beautiful, graceful butterflies, things actually take a really dark turn. See, because they only have a long straw-like tube for a mouth, they can't chew. They get nutrients from flower, nectar, sure, but flowers don't have the essential salts they need to survive. So, to get those nutrients, butterflies will happily drink mud, sweat, urine, and yes, even blood. So that beautiful butterfly landing on your arm, yeah, it's literally just drinking your sweat. Okay, so insects are secretly super complex and a bit horrifying. But what about higher intelligence? We hear the term bird brain used as an insult all the time, right? Well, we are going to see exactly why that is actually a massive compliment, especially when we talk about crows. Crows are terrifyingly smart, like shockingly smart. They actually understand the concept of death. They mourn their dead, and get this, they even conduct rudimentary post-mortems. They gather around to figure out what killed their friend so they can avoid the danger in the future. Even wilder, if a crow kills another crow, the rest of the flock will literally execute the murderer, which, honestly, might be exactly why a group of them is called a murder of crows in the first place. And they keep a ledger, a strict, highly accurate mental ledger of favors and offenses when it comes to humans. If you're kind to a crow, they'll bring you shiny objects or little feathers as a thank you. But if you cross them, oh boy, they will remember your face for 5 years, even if you wear a mask, and they will absolutely dive bomb you. They even describe your face to the rest of the flock, meaning you'll get attacked by birds you haven't even met. All right, let's leave the birds behind and travel to the frozen extremes of the planet. I want you to answer this seemingly simple question. What color is a polar bear's skin? Take a second. You're probably picturing a giant white bear, right? Well, underneath all that massive fluff, a polar bear actually has completely dark black skin. And here's the real kicker, their fur isn't even white. The hairs are entirely translucent, colorless, and hollow, kind of like tiny little straws. The air trapped inside the hairs scatters the light, making them appear white to our eyes. It's exactly the same optical illusion that makes a colorless snowflake look white when it falls. And nature is definitely shifting up in these cold climates. There are actually several recorded instances of polar bears and grizzly bears crossing paths and mating out in the wild. When they do, their massive hybrid offspring are known as Pizzly or Growler bears, and the name just depends on whether the father or the mother was the polar bear. Now, polar bears are intense survivalists. They can spend up to 9 days swimming non-stop. 9 days! They primarily hunt seals to harvest massive amounts of vitamin A. In fact, they store so much of it in their bodies that if you were to somehow eat the liver of a single polar bear, the lethal overdose of vitamin A would be enough to kill 52 human beings. 52! Now, a super common point of confusion is whether polar bears and penguins ever actually meet. Simply put, they don't. And there's a brilliant way to remember why, just through simple etymology. The word Arctic essentially translates to bear. Antarctic, well, hilariously, that translates to no bear. So the bears are up north in the Arctic, and the penguins are hanging out safely down south in the literal no-bear zone. And speaking of penguins, their skeletons hide a pretty bizarre secret. Their knees are actually bent inside their bodies. They essentially spend their entire lives in a permanent squat. Oh, and they definitely have a dark side too. If an emperor penguin mother loses her chick, in her grief, she will actively kidnap another mother's chick. But the really tragic part? After about a week, she just sort of loses interest and abandons the stolen chick to wander off and die in the cold. Nature can be ruthlessly tragic sometimes. All right, let's move on to Section 2, the truth about rabbits. Remember that hook question from the very beginning of our explainer, the fluffy poop eater? Well, it's time to reveal the culprit. It's the rabbit. Rabbits are incredibly efficient eaters, but they achieve this by doing something, well, awful. They produce a very specific, nutrient-dense dropping called a night poop. And yep, they bend over and eat it directly out of their own anus every single day to redigest those nutrients. And to make matters slightly worse, rabbits physically lack the ability to vomit. So if they eat something bad, there's no going back. It has to go all the way through their system.
We also really need to debunk the whole Bugs Bunny myth right now. Do not feed rabbits carrots as a main food source. They are way too soft. You see, a rabbit's teeth literally never stop growing. They desperately need rough hay and thick grass to grind them down. If they don't get it, their teeth will literally grow straight up through their own skulls. And as if their dietary needs weren't stressful enough to manage, their nervous systems are incredibly fragile. A sudden, really loud noise can literally trigger a fatal heart attack.
So from the incredibly fragile abbot rabbit, let's look at an animal that is virtually indestructible. I mean, what creature possesses the godlike ability to completely regenerate its own brain tissue after a traumatic injury? The answer is the axolotl. You've probably seen them famous all over the internet for their cute little baby faces and feathery gills, but they are deeply misunderstood by most people. First off, they aren't some unique species of fish. They're actually a species of salamander native to only one single lake near Mexico City. And biologically speaking, they are basically Peter Pan. They never grow up. They are permanently stuck in their aquatic larval stage forever. But what makes them absolute rock stars in the scientific community is their unmatched regenerative power. If they lose a limb, it just grows back perfectly. Tail? Grows back. But they can also perfectly regenerate wildly complex organs, their heart, their lungs, entirely severed spinal cords, and even solid chunks of their brain. Scientists have been using them as lab rats for literally 150 years, desperately trying to unlock these secrets for human medicine. And because their bodies accept grafts so easily, scientists actually use them to make Frankenstein chimeras. No joke, you can cut off an axolotl's leg, stitch it straight to its back, and it will just fuse and start working. They've even tried making two-headed axolotls. All this leaves us with one massive final thought. If something this small, native to just one single lake on Earth, holds the biological secrets to completely regenerating a severed spine and surviving as a literal chimera, what else is nature hiding from us right in plain sight? Thank you so much for exploring this with me today, and hey, keep questioning everything you think you know.